It's Ian Mohr, the editor of Page Six, here with Page Six senior reporter Mara Siegler. And as you may know, or maybe may not know, at the iconic gossip column, Page Six at the New York Post, of course we write about all the top celebrities, like we've recently told you about Tom Brady and Giselle and
Taylor
Kim
Swift,
and Taylor
all of the
and
time.
Travis and all the rest of them. But we also have a history of writing about, politics, art, high society, wacko New York stories, and Broadway and different things. And those are actually like some of our favorite things to write about. Mara, you had one recently that was like pretty amazing actually about Keith Haring, and you cover art a lot, and you cover Art Basel, Miami Beach, and Frieze, and other art fairs.
All the good art
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, so I talked to this mega collector by the name of Larry Warsh. He is a New Yorker. He's lived here since the 1980s, and he actually used to live in Astor Place and hang out with, Jean-Michel Basquiat and Patti Astor, and hang out at the Fun Gallery, which was like this cool modern art thing back in the day. And that was a moment in time where, of course, New York is really well known for the art scene. All of these people kind of created this community, and we're doing all kinds of new works. So he is putting up 31 Keith Harings. They're called the Subway Drawings, and they're works that Keith Haring would do back in the 80s. When a piece of ad space was unsold, they would put up a piece of black matte paper over it. So Keith Haring, while he was waiting for the train, would within minutes do these amazing sketches, including a lot of his like things that are iconographic to him right now, or part of his like visual alphabet, like his spaceships and babies and angels and dogs.
And if you don't know who Keith Haring is, you can see from the images, you'll definitely recognize his art.
Yeah, I mean, his art has sort of transcended that time for sure. It's still on T-shirts, and you see it pretty much on everything. He died of AIDS at 31, but he was, at the time, people didn't, these drawings were drawn in chalk and very quick. And Larry Warsh, who is a very interesting interview, he sort of describes himself as he has a compulsion to collect. A lot of people collect for different reasons, and he's somebody who finds it a compulsion, and he wants to take a risk and find the things that decades later people will be interested in. So I think the excitement for him is I think he sees himself as sort of a steward, someone who's preserving and archiving these things. So he had told me that he went down to the subway, he tried to peel off one of the Harings off of the subway, and he ripped it. So that was the last time he did it. He said a lot of people were doing this, but they, knew what they were doing. They would take off the fiberglass frame. They knew specifically how to get it off. So at the time, he ended up buying these works for around $1,000. They were just hand rolled. People didn't really understand what they were, what they would be worth. Now they're going to be up at Sotheby's for auction. They're expected to fetch $10 million, which I'm told is actually a low number, but they tend to set these things lower so that people get more interested.
Yeah, and these works are really rare because obviously similarly to like a Banksy, this is like street art, and as the collector mentioned, it's hard to obtain. And apparently, according to Sotheby's, these works are, it's rare that they come up in such good condition, or like usually they're damaged or they've been lost over time. So it's a pretty rare and cool thing.
Exactly. So they have been preserved very well. And then also, I mean, he made a lot of these drawings, but the thing is that the MTA was illegal. It wasn't like they were like, oh yay, it's famous street artist Keith Haring. He was just like a kid doing these things, starting his career, and they would remove these things almost immediately. So it's a real get.
Yeah, well, we'll follow up with who buys them, because it's always an interesting story to see who actually buys these things for millions of dollars.
And the public will be able to see the work. Sotheby's is actually doing a very cool thing where they are recreating a vintage subway scene so that people can come in and see the works in their original environment.
Yeah, I liked also how you said, like, almost unbelievably that he lived here in the 80s, because I also lived here in the 80s. And I have tried to peel street art actually off of subway posters at night, and it is
like as a baby.
As a baby, yeah. It is actually really hard to do. I did go down to the subway anyway, I'll tell you about that next time. For more about this auction and other Page Six +1 stories, you can check out page6.com, or go old school, go kind of 80s, and just pick up a copy of the newspaper.